Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and we are back to another recording of Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. A lot of updates have happened, so there is a decent number of solo missions, certainly, that I want to show off and make special episodes around. Um, there's been, as of this recording, about 3 festivals, and they've gotten for the most part better than the first couple of festivals, in that they don't really demand too much on of your time. They're still demanding a little bit too much of your time. Weirdly, Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel is oddly capped at about at 10,000 crystals, gems, premium currency you can have, and then anything above that ends up in the gift box. And there's not really that much you can do with crystals. Once you've gone into the shop and you've gotten what is, in my opinion, a reasonable percentage of these selection packs, you then are looking basically to use secret packs to burn the gems. As far as other purchasable things, they've added a couple of these structure decks that you can buy 3 times. But that's kind of it. The mates and dual fields and all of that, while it may have all seemed a little expensive and overwhelming to begin with, once you have everything, they really haven't added anything new. Uh, the dual pass pays for itself as long as you get to the max level to get that. There hasn't really been but one added uh, bundle deal. So oddly, you have this situation where there's not too much you can do with the uh, premium currency other than just buy cards, and we're still at 6,000 plus cards that you can buy, and that's fine. But you don't really need 6,000 cards, and you really couldn't deck build with 6,000 cards and make 100 different decks and actually understand how those decks work and play them. You're going to make 2 or 3 at most decks at any one time, and then you're going to move forward. So, as I'm covering updates, I suspect I probably showed off the SP deck challenge last time we covered any things. The one thing they have updated here is some dual training. Uh, that clearly the intention is that this is for new players right after the tutorial. Um, and it's Dual Strategy 2, so we've already done Dual Strategy 1. Mm, So, yeah, it does kind of make a lot of sense that you would um, get a little bit more strategy explained to you, because it's still fairly easy to play this game and not really know what to do. And they've added little animations apparently here, as far as there being a little trophy. Let's go back to like tutorial and see if there's a trophy there, or if that's unique. Nope, there's a little trophy anywhere, and that doesn't really indicate to me that there would be a reason to go back and do it or do it better. Uh, so you have a slightly longer list here, and these are all practices. So I, I don't think it's going to be much of a case of um, needing to learn anything super short and specific as like playing 3 cards in a row, more than just learning to play the game in its play around in its entirety. Now this is interesting. If this is jumping up and down when we haven't done this, then I have no idea what these are supposed to really indicate. Like the rewards are still the same. You get gonna get some rare cards. not going to get a full uh, deck. There is now some level of difficulties that star levels that they're indicating to you, but the requirement seems to be still that you're expected to do every single challenge, and in the cases in which you do the challenges, you will sometimes be able to do it with a loner deck and your own custom deck, and then be required to do it with both a loner deck and a custom deck. This is also really loud, so I'm going to try and turn down the audio when I get a second here. So we're getting back to very basic things. The battle phase is further split into four parts called the steps: the start step, battle step, damage step, and end step, which uh, I guess that is something that I guess I didn't know. Like that there is a subdivision in the battle phase, which there's already the draw phase, the standby phase, the main phase 1, the battle phase, main phase 2, and in phase. Uh, this isn't super uncommon for collectible card games. It's just one of the aspects that makes collectible card games and the order in which things resolve overly complicated. Battle step is the part where preparations for battle happen. During this step, players declare attacks with their monsters and select targets for attack. Card effects that activate upon declaration or when a monster is targeted for an attack can also be used. Alright, draw phase, standby phase, main phase 1, then play cards, and end phase. Alright, let's see. I don't know why the audio sounds so loud, but I'm gonna, for this in particular, let's just do that. That feels much more cozy as far as this. During a duel, your opponent will alternate between each turn. You and your opponent will alternate between each turn to make your moves. The very basic stuff. A single turn is split into 6 phases, and what you can do will depend on which phase it is. In the phases are the draw phase, standby phase, main phase 1, battle phase, main phase 2, and end phase. So yeah, this is stuff you need to know, certainly for Yu-Gi-Oh!, particularly if you're coming from, say, like the Pokemon collectible card game or some other collectible card game that just doesn't have these phases or doesn't name these phases so much. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an old enough series or CCG to have honestly too much of this happening. It would be fairly easy to eliminate the main phase 2 in 95% of all scenarios and nothing would change. It would be fairly easy to merge the draw phase and the standby phase into one and get rid of the idea of a standby phase. Uh, and then you could get it down to just drawing main phase 1, battle phase, and end of turn. Um, and certainly the reason why there are so many of these phases is because there's wording on very old cards that claims these phases exist or activates or triggers on these phases. If you were going to start over from scratch and remaster Yu-Gi-Oh, you would eliminate some phases and rewrite some cards. And that was the thing that Hearthstone somewhat promised, is that since it was a digital only card game, is that they could change things on the fly if they found there was really no need for it. But it never really led, in Hearthstone's case, to simplifying things, so just overly adding more complications. And almost certainly that would be the case. You would just constantly add more complications. Somebody's always going to complain about anything getting removed. We'll go more into depth about the battle phase a part of Duels that has a great influence on both player strategies. Battle phase is split into 4 parts. We already read that. Damage phase will be explained in further detail in another chapter. For now, focus on the battle step. This step is for declaring attacks with your monsters for effects that activate when a battle is declared and when the target is selected uh, for an attack, or to prepare for the beginning of a battle. Blah blah blah. Let's take a look at it in practice. Yeah, this is still getting to the point where you could fairly easily click through all of this if you know how to play and just play, and you still probably would be doing the thing they want you to do. Gather the synchro materials that you will need to synchro summon Junk Speeder. Normal summon Hyperion Synchron. Okay. So, Hyper Synchron. If there's a tuner card in your field, you can special summon Boost Warrior from your hand. This is just a whole side aspect. Now we can synchro summon Junk Speeder. And it's just highlighting everything, so, and not even letting you do things out of order. Activate its effect. And then apparently select this material, this material, this material, and this material, which is going to fill up things. One option you can take here is to use the tuner to use special summon to your field to conduct another synchro summon. However, for now, let's go straight to the battle phase to activate the other effective Junk Speeder. Okay. Switching the battle phase. Declare an attack against your opponent's monster with Junk Speeder to activate its effect. What is this guy gonna do? Can a twat is gonna get a bunch of attack, yet the trap stopped my attack. The battle step isn't just for declaring attacks with monsters. During the battle step, you can also activate all sort of cards effects to gain advantage when attacking or defend off your opponent's attacks. Let's end the battle phase. Keep a close eye on the card effects that activate during battle step as you battle your way to victory. I'd say a lot of times, if you are in the same battle phase, you tend to lose those effects later, and it seems like the game is just broken at that point. Okay. Do I want to summon this? I think I do. I'll go and destroy that card. And it does just seem like we are playing at this point. Unless next turn is going to trigger something to get me back to getting hints. Here we can negate an attack with this trap, which didn't work for some reason. He's just straight up playing. That is a odd twist here, because all of a sudden this seems to have changed from being a lesson to just let's let you play the rest of this battle out however you feel like. Um, however you feel like doing this. I don't know which one I want to get, but we might as well get that one, I guess. I thought this other card would work and let me summon that. Okay. 2300, which would let me banish a card. I think this is fine. Hmm. 2500. Yeah, let's do it, I guess. These synchro cards definitely give the feeling that they are designed around the idea of being used as cannon fodder. Alright, well, this isn't going to be a one-turn kill by any means, but it'll be very close. It almost feels like there was a button there that I accidentally clicked to end the suggestion. On the other hand, maybe this is just a example of them trying to do things a little bit differently, because the way these tutorial scripted scenarios would have gone before is that they would have been scripted so that you would win in a very unnatural way because the player would have only like 1,000 life points left, or they would just kind of abruptly end for some other reason. Um, yeah, I don't think I really need to do anything. And certainly these last couple battle phases didn't do anything tricky or surprising the way I played it out. So maybe there is a thought certainly to that, and this probably is the better way to present things, is to say that to tell the player just to play a full game um, instead of just ending it. We got our card, and apparently the trophy is a cursor, which maybe makes sense on a touchscreen, doesn't make so much sense on the PC. Oh, I should also point out that one of my major complaints about this game is it doesn't have an X button to exit on the PC version. There's just like no way to get out of it without hitting escape on the keyboard. Uh, Turns out that if you have a back button, which would be about mouse click 3 or 4, uh, 4 or 5 actually, I would guess, um, you can hit the back button on a mouse and that will pop up a prompt, do you want to exit? But not everybody has a back button on the mouse. Like, people have left click, they have middle button click, they have right click, which would be mouse click 1, 2, and 3. But very few people then have a couple side buttons on their gaming mouse. And I don't even have a super fancy gaming mouse, and I only have a forward click and a back click because of that. Cards that can be activated during the damage step. I guess this is going to be your general explanation, and I think for the sake of time, since this is going to be fairly simplistic stuff, we should just skip ahead of this, because I think it's going to be repeated anyways. Alright. Let's take a look at the damage step part of the battle phase. Once you've declared battle with a monster, picked its target for attack, and are ready for battle, you move on to the damage step. In basic terms, the damage step is the part where the outcome of the battle is determined. Damage calculation will occur, and monsters that are destroyed by battle will be sent to the graveyard, which arguably that is 3 micro steps, as for the division of steps under the division of phases. You can always just slice something smaller. Few cards have effects that can be activated during the damage step. These effects most likely change attack and defense, negate card activations, and or activate before during damage calculation. Try it out for yourself. Normal summon Blackwing Shura the Blue Flame and proceed to the battle phase. Okay. Normal summon this. And then battle phase. Attack your opponent's monster with Blackwing Shura of the Blue Frame, and then activate the effect Blackwing Kalut the Moon Shadow during the damage phase and see what it does. Okay. So from your hand, discard the card. I don't see a reason why you wouldn't say yes to that. As another effect. This concludes the damage step. When the damage step ends, you will go back to the battle step. Which, if you have other monsters, you can declare attacks with you may continue to attack your opponent. Excuse me as I drink some water. Keep a close eye on the card effects that activate during the damage step as you battle your way to victory. And see, at that point, that definitely does feel like they have just left me to my own devices. So, at that point, you go to main phase to 2, and then you actually just start playing. And let's see, we have probably nothing here that would summon a 45 as far as things. And even if I was going to do that, I don't think I could do it with this being included. See. So I'd assume that these two are going to be combinations of that. Which, if I had understood the card better and known that it was going to go to 31, I might have considered merging the two, but it's still 18 and 13 is better. Plus, you've got these two traps that almost certainly are going to do something different. Right, so now if we summon this, set this spell can't be played. A 400 and a 1300 potentially could replace. Could also do something where we go even higher. Unaffected by other cards' effects at 3,000. Might as well go for the fun. This is very possibly, for a lot of players, including me, the only time that I would play with these cards. Inherently, that is still the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that you just have such a history there, and you just have those 6,000 cards that this game is starting with, 6,000 plus cards. It's just going to be really unlikely that you're going to be able to have somebody enjoy the entirety of all the different cards and decks that can exist. Um, Arguably, there's something sort of like that you run into other games, RPG games in general. Like, you think of something like Diablo, and if you play as an archer in Diablo, you're probably not going to come back and play every other hero class. Or Skyrim is another thing. Although Skyrim's much more open ended about how you can on the fly change how you play the game, because Skyrim doesn't have direct character classes that lock you in at the beginning of the game, where Diablo did. For the most part, I think most fantasy games now don't lock you into a character class completely, but CCGs effectively do lock you into a deck theme, a deck type, because you just won't have enough time to make all of all of the different types of deck types out there. I kind of also question whether a lot of these cards I personally may already have. There's an interesting thought certainly as to why some of these challenges are prerequisited in a way that you have to learn one thing before the next thing, and some of them split off and are just extra information. Chains, chaining effects. Again, we'll, for time's sake, skip the over overarching synopsis. Card effects are more than just normal spells and monster ignition effects that you activate during your main phase of your turn. There are many cards which effects can be activated once their conditions have been fulfilled. When there are multiple cards whose activation conditions have been fulfilled and all of them are activated, they will build a chain before they are resolved. Let's take a look at how chains are built. First, activate Star Pendulograph. I'm going to do this one step at a time. Next, normal summon Double Iris Magician. Your opponent will activate Trap Hole upon successful summon. Um, when Double Iris Magician is destroyed by the effect of Trap Hole, many of your cards will have their activations conditions fulfilled, and you'll be able to build a chain. Pay close attention to the order in which the chain is built. You may very well leave me to my own devices as to what order I pick. Magicians, I would say, in the Yu-Gi-Oh series, probably should be a little bit more focused on, um, as being a thematic uh, type of characters and cards. The problem that Yu-Gi-Oh runs into is it introduces Dark Magician Girl, and it becomes so prominently uh, hyped that the idea of making slightly weaker magicians or unconnected to Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl cards doesn't sell as well. And there are a few variants of Dark Magician, but they're really just more evolutions of Dark Magician instead of replacements or counters or otherwise different thoughts as far as around the idea of a magician. In a lot of ways, a lot of the cartoon, and the cartoon certainly is guilty of this, of causing this to happen. Why is it's kind of problematic when you have like decks like Harpy Ladies, which a Harpy deck is pretty much impossible to actually play because all people really want to see is those old Harpy Ladies cards, and those cards are too old, and they weren't really even competitive at the beginning. Of course, it also got weird in the first series of Yu-Gi-Oh, in which at a certain point Yugi is no longer even playing Dark Magician and Karibo cards as much as he's playing God cards and other cards that he gains later, which would make sense, but then kind of ruins the enthusiasm around the old cards. So it says, why is the chain built in this order? First, when conditions to activate pendulum graph were fulfilled, it became chain link 1. This is because once its conditions are met, activating it is mandatory. When Double Iris Magician was destroyed by Trap Hole, it sent the extra sent to the extra deck face up. Its activation conditions were fulfilled. However, activating it is not mandatory. Thus, when the player chose to activate it, it became Chain Link 2. There is a lifetime goal to have a chain of 5, which you'll eventually get that, but in actual play, getting up to a chain of 5 is fairly odd. And there's nothing special here. Uh, as far as I know, there's no card that says if you make a chain of 6, 7, 8, 9, you win the game immediately. There probably should be some card like that where if you can create a crazy chain, um, you automatically win, but it would have to be very carefully balanced. Finally, the last card that activated from the hand, Chronograph Sorcerer, became Chain Link 3. Pay heed to how the chains are built as you battle your way to victory. A lot of times you really don't have to pay too much attention unless you're actively activating something to counter something that's already been activated in the chain. Because in practical use, most of the time when you chain things, it's just going to be you trying to activate something while your opponent's trying to activate something, and the two somethings are completely disconnected and don't affect each other. Yeah. Now the chain at this point is over. It should have resolved. Um, so we could put this on the pendulum scale. We could special summon this 2800, which would be a mistake. Hmm. Hmm. I mean, I could put this on the pendulum scale, I guess. I don't think that helps anything. Well, maybe it does. Because we could then take this, and then I guess I could put this on the pendulum scale. And so theoretically, I could pendulum summon this from the extras deck. And then theoretically, I can now see if I can sacrifice this one and this one to do that. Once per turn, you can target one other monster in the field or graveyard until the interface this card name becomes that and replaces the effect of that monster. I don't know if we need to do that. Yeah. So you just attack here. This. This. And this. Now it was effectively a one turn kill. There was probably nothing more to learn there. Oh, I suppose if I went into my character and changed my little thumbnail here, this wouldn't be a trophy. And then it would make more sense that it was a cursor. Yeah. I guess they didn't really think that through so much. Here we have another card, another 3 copies of cards. Yu-Gi-Oh! Still is giving some cards every now and then, but they're oddly giving a lot of cards that then cannot be dismantled for crafting points, even if you have extra copies. So there is a lot of cards I have right now where I may have 7, 8, 9 of them, and it would make a lot more sense if they let me dissolve that into some crafting points. And it's just saying no, you can't do that because I earn them in some weird way, or I purchased them. So there's like no concept there of potentially purchasing a structure deck 3 times and then dissolving the cards uh, for for crafting points. And then we have battle damage and effect damage. That's what we're learning this time. Reducing your opponent's life points to 0 is the most conventional way to win a duel. LP can be reduced with battle damage, which is inflicted when monsters battle, or effect damage, which is inflicted via card effects. See for yourself by activating Goblin Thief. Alright, let's see. Inflict 5 damage to your opponent's life point, increase your life points by 500. Very basic concept. You can reduce your opponent's life points even during your main phase. This is how you can reduce your opponent's LP without even battling. The magic cylinder that you drew previously has a powerful effect that allows you to negate an opponent's attack and deal damage equivalent to that attack to that monster. Now it's important to point that out because if a monster was an effect monster and it says for every 1 point of damage it does to somebody, it also does another point of damage. I don't believe there's a card like that. Then Magic Cylinder should not copy that effect monster's effect and double it back on them. Um, which there's a slight difference there because there probably is a card out there that would let you redirect a monster's attack to a different target and have your opponent attack himself with his own monster. Make good use of the card effects that deal damage as you battle on your way to victory. Magic Cylinder is another card that I guess technically really is with the Dark Magician and the Magician as a concept and as a theme, and you barely even recognize it because all the cards are just so weird as far as the animation, and that thematically thinking they are connected is kind of silly. Nightmare Wheel is a pretty rough card. Okay. So you basically put this in defense position. Hmm. Now, when your opponent monster declares an attack, tribute one monster and inflict 1,000 versus inflicting 500. And see, what would make a lot of sense here is if there was just barely 8,000 worth of damage in those cards and you had to play it perfectly in the right order to win. Um, but I don't think that's really going to be the case. I think what's going to happen is you're just going to play cards and play the rest of the game out and be given a deck that is by far more successful than the opponent's deck. So you're just going to be able to do whatever you want. So every turn, this guy's going to do 500 damage and there's nothing else. Um, There's really kind of nothing else you can do here. Sorry, I'm chewing ice. Um, Take note here that you could. I want to just hold on to. No, I guess you set that one too. Um, you could potentially have 5 Nightmare Wheels or something like Nightmare Wheels. You could only have 3 of them, I guess, in the deck. Um, but you could have 3 Nightmare Wheels and then 2 other things that would lock 5 characters into the monster fields. They've slightly changed the decks now. Um, they've slightly changed things, but I wouldn't say that they've. The effect that would make an opponent gain LP inflicts the same amount of damage to them instead. Hmm. Well, that would be interesting, certainly, as a card. Hmm. Yeah, you could potentially create a scenario where you're going to lock characters in 5, 6 monster fields, and then it would be very difficult to do damage or win. Um, but I just don't think that's really worth the effort and the time. Because it just creates this scenario that you run into in a lot of CCGs, and in that they will kind of create scenarios that make the games go really long, just like ridiculously long. Um, yeah, you can see how, because you can't get a monster on the field, it seems like you're probably not going to ever be able to do it. That there's probably not anything with 2,000 attack or higher. So you're not going to be able to attack, so you're just not going to be able to win very fast. Let's see. Had I had this card when I had this, it would have had me gain 1200 LP, which still wouldn't have really synergized with this. So I don't think there really is a card here in this deck that would synergize with this, although something probably would. This one's a continuous trap that effectively does the same thing as this. Hmm. Potentially, it's going to take 3 more turns to win. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's a card or two out there that would do 500 damage up until the point where it's about to die and then stop doing 500 damage. So you would need some other card to bring it over the finishing line effectively. Certainly, you can see how the danger of these tutorials could go pretty badly, because these could get very long. I don't know what that gift card uh, trap does, but I suspect it would have given life to the opponent. So here's one that will give you crystals. 100 crystals is effectively 1 pack, but you always want to buy packs in packs of 10. Um, so there's it's nice to get 100 crystals. It's not super great though. It'd be much nicer to get 500 to 1,000 crystals as a reward. But then again, on all fairness, playing ranked, if you win one game of ranked that can go easily 5 to 10 minutes, yes, you end up getting maybe 15 crystals instead of 100. They're kind of cheap with it. But then there's not too much you can do with the crystals other than buy cards. And there's no reason for Konami to let people rush to owning every single card in Master Duel when it's still a relatively brand new game. So we're looking at alternate win conditions, such as having all 5 pieces of Exodia, the Forbidden One, and I can kind of tell just by this card alone that that is what we're going to go for. And I assume you're always going to win with um, whatever deck they give you or they intend for you to win. This is a lot of setup, certainly. Most conventional way to win a duel is to reduce your opponent's life points to 0. However, it's not the only way you can win a duel. When playing ranked, there have been several times where I've lost a duel and it says something weird that I don't understand, like no win in 3 turns, no win in 4 turns. And it doesn't really do a great job of like re-summoning or showing the card that is affecting and causing you to lose. Exodia is an exception to that, certainly. You get a nice little animation when Exodia summons, and it explains itself very clearly that you summoned Exodia, the Forbidden One, to win. But sometimes it just says, nope, you lost because you didn't win in 4 turns, and I don't have the interest to go back and look at the records of that match to find out what caused that to be a win condition. Let's see. Let's take a look at different ways a player can win. Your opponent currently is playing a deck built to reduce your deck to 0 cards. If your deck is left with no cards, you are unable to draw, and your opponent will win the duel. Well, we've also prepared with an unusual win condition for you. If you gather Exodia, the Forbidden One, and 4 cards listed on it to your hand for a total of 5 cards, you will win the duel. I went out of my way to get Exodia cards and build an Exodia deck just to summon Exodia, the Forbidden One. Had this tutorial existed from day one, and I was able just to do this tutorial, I probably wouldn't have bothered to actually own Exodia, an Exodia deck. It's not super useful at this point. Maybe I'll find some situations in solo mode where it still might be somewhat useful, but it never. The deck I built with Exodia, not particularly good and not very effective as it should be. Before your opponent reduces your deck to 0, gather Exodia, the Forbidden One, and other cards you need to win the duel. Alright. So, it's not giving me really any help there. Uh, you can only use this at once. And then this one. Okay, so you probably want to start with this. And then that's all the help it's really going to give you. Now, it just screwed me playing Morphing Jar because it put one of the Exodia legs into the graveyard. So now I'm going to have to pull something out of the graveyard, which may be hard. Let's see. Continuous spell. Draw a card. Hmm. Hmm. I may not have a way in which I can actually win here. Now, they have to be in your hand, so you can't really summon them to the field unless you have some other cards that synergize with the Exodia cards. So, this one. What I could do is I could try to seek all 5 of the Exodia cards in the graveyard, then play this when I have no cards left. As a last worst case scenario. That's why I set the magic spell instead of activating it. That way, if he plays another morphing jar or something, which it's probably what he's exactly going to keep on doing, I think he's going to constantly try and make me um, die from that. Hmm. Hmm. So I should just add this there. Go ahead and set this. We have 19 cards left. Go ahead and summon this. And get rid of that. It's still very possible that you could just lose this this game other ways. Let's go ahead and use that effect now. And let's go ahead and send that to the graveyard. Actually, I really should be getting rid of everything. This is weird though, because it's going to shuffle 5 cards and then draw 2. So if I don't really have a lot of things set, then that could play awkwardly. Hmm. This will draw 2 cards. This would draw 2 cards. So I need 4. Let's see how this works. Hmm. And see, this is not too different from my previous experiences um, with the Exodia decks, is that they are just too much. They take too long. So let's card 2 more things and to draw 2 cards. Can I summon this? Yeah, it's kind of the next step I would want to do. Yeah, let's give it another turn and hope that doesn't wreck me. Can I put this in defense mode? No. Probably shouldn't have done that then, because they're just going to attack this and kill it. Unless one of these traps does something. Hmm. Yeah, I don't want to actually activate that. So I should have played a spell. This hardly feels like this is going to be a guaranteed victory. Let's try this. All right. Let's do this. Hmm. Hmm. this could do it. While there are 5 or more monsters in your graveyard, 3 non-effect monsters. These are non-effect monsters. Are there 3 of the Exodia cards in there, though? And no. Return that to the deck, return to that to the deck. And then return that to the deck. Knows how they're just kind of overcomplicating things. Hmm. Might as well activate this so we can just get rid of that. Hmm. Okay. So if I could destroy this other card. Well, actually, I can just win here. Activating this spell. But see, that's a lot of work. And there's a nice little animation there, so you definitely know you summoned Exodia, the forbidden one. Of course, if you were playing this in the real world, you'd have to actually show those cards to your opponent to prove they were in your hand. If anything, that really just highlights where, while that is fancy and kind of a unique way to win, it's not a realistic way to play. Or if you have no other cards, it's your only option, obviously, but you definitely don't see anybody playing Exodia in ranked duel, in the higher levels of ranked duel on in this game. Uh, Battle replay next is the next concept, which these are definitely a lot of concepts to have not covered day one. As far as players needing to know these concepts to actually understand how to play the game, if they've never played Yu-Gi-Oh before. Your opponent's monster is a battalion boxer glassjaw. Its attacks are higher than all the monsters in your hand, but fear not, there's still a way you can deal with it. So you don't even have a 2500 attack. Normal summon Gaga Ga Magician and attack your opponent's monster. Again, a magician card I've never heard of. 1500. And then battle phase. The effective battalion boxer glassjaw when activate when it's selected for a target of attack, it destroys itself. So now replay happens because the situation has changed and they were asking, do you want to continue to attack or change your actions because the situation changed? Which arguably you could have made the game simpler by simply not allowing that to be the case, that once you declare an attack, you must declare an attack. If the character dies, then you must either randomly attack any other monster or do a direct attack. Now that your opponent has no monsters, it can be selected for a target to attack. A battle replay will occur. Choose whether you want to change the attack target if Gaga or not attack at all. Now your opponent has no monsters left on the field. Let's attack them directly. You've successfully dealt battle damage to your opponent. I don't know if that sentence was necessary. Battle replay occurred when you are attacking. The number of monsters on the opponent field decreases or increases, for example, due to a special summon. Battle replays sometimes give you a chance to dodge attacks from your opponents or even change your attack target to a monster you prefer. However, note that battle replays do not occur during the damage step. Pay close attention to your opponent's attack and each card effect as you battle your way to victory. And it's just going to leave you there. That's all the help you get. Alright, so let's ask um, the important questions as far as this is Gaga Ga Girl. This is Gaga Ga Magician. Definitely feels like it would have made more sense to have summoned both of those. Let's see what we can summon now. A 2500 Utopian, 1500 Gaga Ga Cowboy, Gaga Ga Samurai, Gaga Gaga. Odd synergy here with this number 39 Utopia, who does not look anything like a magician artistically. May have been a mistake to special summon that, but we shall see. 25 by 25. You can detach one material and negate the attack. Sure. Which would put this guy back on in the graveyard. And that instead counters it. So that was a bad outcome for me. What we really haven't seen so far is a case where the opponent has a deck that is particularly educational or interesting. So if all of a sudden we start to see them doing something kind of crazy and interesting in that aspect, that would be different. Twice per turn, it can't be destroyed by card effect. Hmm. So this one can change its level, which did not help anything. fact, was a really stupid move. So we may have hit a point where, left to my own experiments and devices, this is um, I'm not going to actually be able to win. Right. Apparently, we can only set this one. What could we potentially special summon? Hmm. I guess we probably want this cowboy. And I don't think there's an actual extra card here that would have let you summon something if you had two level 8 or level 6 cards. So him changing his ability doesn't really do anything. Add 1,000 minus them losing 500 be 27 2,000. Really still really not enough. Yeah, I think I needed a little bit more hand holding here. I don't have any cards. I've learned a little bit, certainly. And this may just be a case, and I have certainly seen it in some of the other solo stuff, where they just go wild with the uh, randomness of some of these decks, and uh, that creates a scenario where sometimes you do just lose when they didn't intend for you to lose. Or arguably, these should be very scripted actions where they just do the same thing every time, no matter what. Particularly in this practice solo mode, because they're not asking you to beat it with your own decks, they're only asking you to beat it with your um, with the loner deck. Yeah. But yeah, it feels like it was scripted up to a point, and that was it. And yeah, you just really would want to play everything else, and it's not letting you do it. Hmm. Hmm. All right, let's go and set these traps. Hmm. And I guess maybe we're supposed to. Maybe we're supposed to get rid of one of these cards. Hmm. We'll see how this plays out. Target one spell concert. Equip this twice per turn. It cannot be destroyed by battle or card effects. Who would I want to target with that? I wonder. Like if he summons something fairly weak, and I could just attack it once per turn and it wouldn't be destroyed, you might equip this to that. But yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. He's just gonna counter that spell anyways. Hmm. Well, this defense position, I guess. And then that in defense position. And then that in defense position. And that saves you for one turn and kind of it. Alright. So what can we special summon now? Hmm. Gaga cards that could do a second attack. Hmm. Like none of these are good enough. We tried this one, didn't get anywhere. Gain 1,000 won't get you anywhere. Change the defense position won't get you anywhere. The best case scenario, I think, is this. So either I picked the wrong card. Like, see, this one, strategy wise, you'd think you could do this, and then you could activate this effect, and you could do this. And then that would just give you a massive heads up as far as summoning something here. But that's totally not what you need to do. You needed to make this a 4 and leave this as a 4. That way you could attack that way. Let's see. During your main phase, you can detach 2 materials, target one XYZ monster you control, change its attack to 4,000. That's what I needed to do. Wow. And that seems like that is basically the only solution. Unless there's something special about this. Uh, let's just attempt it in an experiment here. Nope, that does not die when you attack it, like the glass jaw did. The problem here is you can't skip and go forward. So I may give this one more try, but if I'm going to struggle this much, I just need to move on to a different solo experience and try that game or that content. Yeah, I just have nothing here. I mean, I should have targeted those, I guess, for attack. So he can attack and do damage. It's just he can't be targeted for an attack. Yeah, you can't skip ahead. Weirdly, the game went from saying, "Hey, you need some more education. Let's give you some easy battles," to let's rack you over the coals and give you an incredibly high difficulty spike in the middle of this collection. Which, yeah, that does definitely lead me to believe that whoever Konami has in charge of making these solo missions isn't the most familiar with Yu-Gi-Oh or collectible card games in general, because I think people in playtesting would have been able to recognize that giving incredibly detailed instruction and then no instruction is very off-putting. You would expect in a case for a game like this for them to just constantly have cards that would bring back this glass jaw over and over and over again, and that the lesson you would learn from that is to continuously attack and continuously have replays. Now, I don't think you can trigger a replay by changing the amount of cards that you have either. Guess we're just gonna end here. Try something different. Just put no cards on the field and see if that maybe keeps you in line with getting instructions. I needed some way to banish that card from the field or from the graveyard. Then he couldn't have brought it back. Send one card from a graveyard, add up to 2 of these monsters from your deck to your hand. You can't add 2 from the same category, though. So this only works once, effectively. What do we want to send to the graveyard? Hmm. Hmm. Let's take this. And it feels like you could just summon that and special summon that. Hmm. See what that does. That makes that a 3/3, which then still makes that kind of useless. And can't attack this turn. Hmm. That first counter trap. There's kind of no way that that first counter trap is ever going to be very useful. So it's like not even worth it to continue. We should just start over again. And it's not very great to even start over again because there's just no way to skip the instructions. Like if we could destroy the field, that'd probably be very helpful. Like you can click this and it will kind of move it to the top, and that's about the only thing you can do. Okay. This would automatically summon that as a level 4 monster. Hmm. So it does kind of indicate that you would want this card so that you can then special summon this. Hmm. Hmm. And that didn't quite work either. So that gives you a level 4 card. And it definitely does feel like your next move is to try and summon this. Hmm. Negate an attack. Maybe there's a card amongst this that would have negated bringing something from the graveyard, and that would have ruined his next step strategy, since you know that's what he's going to do next after several times of playing this. Like, yeah, if there was something where I could detach a card and negate the activation of that. Hmm. But no, he just counters it at that point, and then so twice per turn. Now this character won't die, but that spell still gets played. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know what the next step here is. Hmm. Once per turn, this. Hmm. Yeah, there's just kind of nothing here. Hmm. Yeah, I don't get it. I definitely don't get it, and I think we'll see this play out. But this will be my last attempt at this. I'm just gonna have to play this off screen and try and figure out what the trick is. It definitely feels like it would be a replay trick, but that doesn't really make sense. And if we had started with that card, then arguably maybe that would have made sense. We do recognize we can attack that and destroy that. And then maybe that would allow for a replay to happen in which we could attack that and destroy that. That might have us do a replay and do 800 damage to ourselves for no reason. But if I had a slightly stronger character on the field, that does at that point destroy his strategy. So maybe we've got something here. Although I don't know really how you get to that because you're just back to taking damage and needing just like a fairly lucky card. Hmm, hmm, hmm. Clearly, that's too hard to figure out, though. Like, you've really gone from Dual Strategy 2 being the third single thing you should do. You should, by almost anyone's assumption, you'd be asked to do the tutorial, which is only three things, and then Dual Strategy 1, and Dual Training 1, Dual Strategy 1, and then Dual Strategy 2. It's not going to make any more sense for these specific characters or thematic solo experiences. So I assume, yeah, I haven't really gotten or spent a lot of time doing solo. So I assume I was struggling quite a bit with beating this, either with the loner deck or attempt number one as a deck. I do have slightly different decks now, so I could go back and try this, and have potentially some small amount of free time that I could do that. They also introduced the special deck challenges, or solo play deck challenges, which aren't really educational so much as they are just decks that are going to be loner decks of some theme somewhat from the anime. So I've made some progress there. Some of this definitely off screen, playing with the god cards, for instance. Uh, but arguably, this isn't as much educational as this is just interesting to let the players do. Also, they're saying that these are now difficulty level 5 stars because there are difficulty levels now. So let's try to quickly go through all of this and hopefully not burn up as far as how the story is presented or waste a bunch of time. Yeah. It seems much more reasonable as a solo player story. 5 things and really only one thing that you have to do, which really it makes an argument that this single player content should have been resorted so it was higher in the list for newer players. The fairies who paint the weather. Um, I like the little storybook sections. There isn't much to them, and then there really shouldn't be that too much to them. I still feel like if they were going to get more attractive with their offerings, just having a like video player that you could pop up in the back that's streaming a Twitch stream or a YouTube stream of the Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon would be way more appealing, or even taking some of the Yu-Gi-Oh cartoon cutscenes and putting them directly in the game. Of course, for the mobile versions of the game, that would waste a lot of space. Uh, and this goes in a different direction, certainly, as they are telling you um, these stories around the characters in the cards that are basically, you would have to assume, fictionalized stories or a multiverse of stories in which there are entirely different worlds and entirely different characters, um, but upon which the cards and the card art is based. Very much flavor text. Uh, there's really such a small amount of text in this. It being voice acted wouldn't have been terrible. The fairies were painting to weather. A little girl gazed out the window at the scenery outside as it rained. Watching the girl, her mother called to her. Interesting that we have now all new things. We can go forward, you can read the log, and you can straight up skip, and you can turn the UI off, which seemingly also turns the text off. So if you just want to see the background, um, user interface usually does not include subtitles in my mind. So slight improvements that Konami, being a company that really did not care about making games for at least a decade, is really putting effort into this to make this a real game, and they're not skimping as much as you might have expected them to. Watching the girl, the mother called to her, "You don't like rain, do you?" "No, I don't. It's boring when it rains because I can't play outside," the girl replied without turning around, but her voice betrayed her sour mood. Mom, why does it rain?" The mother replied to the child, whose inquiry was so direct. "It rains because the weather fairies are working on behalf of all of us." And so here we have just some fairy characters. Um, Going for more of a kind of cutesy, uh, kid friendly animation style, I would say, that compared to the more masculine animation style that is fairly prevalent in almost all of the early Yu-Gi-Oh cards and fairly prevalent even now in modern times, maybe slightly less prevalent in modern times. Um, you definitely see a lot of bugs, a lot of robots, a lot of mechas, a lot of things that would be targeted towards Japanese boys, whereas these fairies are more targeted to Japanese girls. Um, but yeah, times certainly probably have changed even in Japan as far as who they are targeting as their audience. So fairies make some sense. I'd almost go as far as describing these characters as being the chibi art style, but they're, I would say, kind of in the middle of the chibi and the moe art style. Um, Not quite in between either one, I would say. Let's see. Perhaps due to the unexpected answer, the girl now turned to her mother with an intrigued expression. This is the kind of background sound effects of water running that you really don't want in a game. It's worth pointing out that they did add a another song to the main gameplay that plays in the background, and once again, it's a song that's too good for its own good. It's distractingly loud and distractingly upbeat and no recognizable. The bars of the song change enough that you when it loops you realize that there is like a beginning, a middle, and the end, whereas most video games want to be very subtle and forgettable, and they're putting too much polish on it. It'd be fine to hear the song that they've added if it was a special event, but when you're just hearing it during random battles, it's kind of silly. But and it's fairly repetitive. Her mother began to speak. So I guess the idea here is that there is a fairy for different types of weather, not perhaps different types of seasons, though. We can see there's some animation that's moving around a little bit more than we've seen before. There are weather fairies in the sky who use their magic paint brushes and crayons to deftly draw pictures in the sky. The pictures turn into weather, delivering blessings to all. Seemingly fond of the expression drawing pictures in the sky, the little girl left the window to sit on her mother's lap but on the sofa, where she waited for her to continue the story. And that's all you get, really. They still are doing this secondary currency for really no reason. Um, and this practice is just going to be the loner deck with a difficulty 1. And I imagine the practice will just hold my hand completely. What makes a The Weather deck unique? Using various The Weather continuous spells and trap cards to grant the weather monsters various effects and aim to link summon the weather painter rainbow. After the weather monster uses one of those effects, they will be banished until your next standby phase. Having the monsters leave the field before they can be destroyed by an opponent's effect can be a good strategy to keep them protected, but use those effects in moderation to prevent your field from thinning too much. Interesting. That does seem tricky as a concept. The more high level gameplay. We'll see if they leave us to our own regards as far as how we play. Again, this is one of those scenarios where your opponent really only has 2,000 life points, so you're gonna win in one turn. Use the effects of the cards in your hand to link summon the weather painter rainbow. Firstly, special summon the weather painter rain using Valhalla Hall of the Fallen. Alright, so is this one Valhalla? Hall of the Felon, yes it is. And oddly it wants it in that specific spot. And then special summon this, it says. And it wants that there. Now special summon the Weather Painter's son using Celestial Transformation. Oddly, it wants that there. I don't know if these positions. Next, normal summon the Weather Painter Snow and use its effect to place the Weather Rainy canvas. This feels like one of those scenarios where you could have done this in many different ways and it would have come to the same outcome. The 3 weather monsters in your field now all gain the effect written on the Weather Rainy canvas. Use these effects to your advantage and make sure the duel continues in your favor before you've even prepared your link summon. Now you have 3 the weather monsters together. Try link summoning, which I assume is just a special summon here. That one. I'm not even sure these influence buttons were in existence last time I did a solo episode. There really has been a lot added. Still needs a few things and a lot of improvements and tweaks, and just some things are not consistent. Attack your opponent's life points directly and win. Alright. So there you have a 5-6 card combination to get a 1-turn win with somebody that has 2,000 life points. And of course that wasn't going to be hard, but what will be hard is doing a real duel, I imagine. Somewhat hard. Probably not that hard. And it's fairly obvious now that since they're going to fairly consistently add um, add more solo player content, you're just never going to have uh, a situation where you use up all of your this would do a spell. Interesting. I guess we'll summon this first and activate this. And then see what do we have. We have sun, rain, and thunder. And this is probably snow. So we probably want something here. It's not that one. Not that one. Don't think that one either. Cards in the column and adjacent columns. Oh, this is going to make this. This is going to make this really difficult to figure out. guess that's probably the one you want to do as a continuous trap. And then I guess that's pretty much it. And it's being influenced only by this card, which kind of shows that this card. Hmm. So I could potentially have banished this card, then you activated this effect, but I didn't, so I screwed that up. Yeah, immediately this is way more difficult than it would seem. Once per turn during standby phase, that's this turn of turn after this card was banished from the field. Let's just activate this effect. Then we'll think about what we're going to special summon. Probably that. And let's just put it face up. I couldn't activate this at the same time, though. So if I am going to banish everything on the field, that's going to make it's going to be complicated to pull that off. So also just activate this effect, I guess. Hmm. Okay, so we have snow, we have rain, and then so the next thing should be sun, since that's really the only thing they taught us. And then in the middle of that summoning, still can't activate this. And see, at this point, I feel like what's going to happen is just next turn, a whole bunch of things are going to unbanish themselves, and we'll be able to attack with them. Let's see. What is this going to do? I think that just banishes itself and protects this. Hmm. Which I guess just means I can keep doing that each turn. Okay. I can't just activate something to get rid of those weather characters. Valhalla Hall of the Fallen, not really needed. Hmm. which I guess means I could do this and then activate this. Which then could give me another spell. Hmm. Well, apparently I can't activate that now. Let's see, do I have something better I could summon? Hmm. Yeah, I don't see it. So, nothing more can be activated. This can't be activated. None of these can be activated. You go here, you just direct attack, and then you just hope to win next turn, which odds look fairly good that you would. Hmm. Check that card, then activate that. I guess maybe to protect that card too. Probably in a redundant way. Hmm. Yeah, apparently whatever it just tried to do was not the right move. And I may have made this take a little bit longer now if I don't have something that can attack that. Hmm. He's back now. Hmm. That brings back two of them. Special summon one fairy monster from your hand. Eh. Yeah, there's really not a lot to say at the moment, so we should just focus, and it's not really anything special you would want to summon either. So 22 at that. Continue attack. This is the kind of deck I don't enjoy playing also because it just pops up all these prompts and slows down the gameplay way more than you'd like it to. Hmm. So, yeah. That's clear enough for now. Of course, it's only the clear, not complete, because then I'd have to come back and play with a deck, and I definitely would change it to something like Zodiac Tri Brigade, which is the current deck that I'm trying to play, and feels like it is much more playable than the Exodia deck or anything else that I have already earned. And then an interesting expense here to unlock all of this that wiped out all of the green and took a decent amount of everything else, and it wiped out all of the light. And that simply is just going to unlock another challenge that is a 4-star difficulty. And so we'll give it one try, but I wouldn't be surprised if I fail here. And that will give a reward of just some of that secondary currency. And these rewards give you legacy pack tickets, which legacy packs are weird. They're not terrible, but they're not great either. What do we get if we win here? We get some cards. Legacy packs give you 2 cards from a slightly smaller pool, draw pool, but not really that small of a draw of a pool of cards that it'll draw from. And because you're only getting 2 cards, like even if you're opening them in packs of 10, it's a fairly quick experience and not that interesting of an experience. Hmm. Yeah. This Lord of the Searing Flame we already have. Chaos Summoning Beginning, Dark Beckoning Beast, Ammon, Lord of the Searing Flame. Alright, well let's take this other Ammon. These feel like these are slightly weaker versions than the God cards or variants, since it does make a lot of sense that the God cards shouldn't actually be played. I I assume that this is just completely random here, so this would just be play this loner deck, learn this loner deck, or play against this opponent's deck. Hmm. This deck definitely feels like you need to figure out a way to get these 10-star characters on the field very quickly. And unless this has a trick where you can this is 3 face-up continuous spells. Okay, I'm not even gonna make it to a second turn at this. And that is pretty much the kiss of death to go from 8,000 to 2,000. Alright. 3 face-up traps or 3 face-up spells. If I had survived another turn, there might have been a way to summon one of these. This one gets 1,000 for each continuous spell. This one's more traditional, 4,000, 4,000. Let's see. Hamon, the Striking Thunder. I guess the only other one we would be looking for is the blue one. I don't see him. Hmm. Seriously? Why can I not special summon this then? This is meeting the requirements. It's a field spell, continuous spell, continuous spell. Nope. Field spells are not continuous spells, I guess. So I should have gotten a trap card instead. A continuous trap, and then I could have gotten that on the field. That would have bought me some time. Well, that definitely did not go well, but I am intrigued enough with this deck to give it a second try. Probably only a second try. Um, Ideally, that's what you would want to see in each of these duels, is something intriguing enough that would encourage you to give things a second try. Let's see. The Weather Painter. Hmm. So you definitely weren't expecting to have nearly the original God cards just appear in the middle of these uh, weather decks. Hmm. Activate this. Might as well activate this. I don't think there's a reason not to activate them. Hmm. Hmm. See. Adjacent columns. Weather characters. And this could trade a spell for a trap if necessary. I don't think it is particularly necessary. Hmm. Spells and traps. Right, so that was not the one I was thinking of summoning. Oops. I was looking to destroy a spells and trap card. Hmm. That did not work out well. We'll see what happens. Like, it kind of feels like it doesn't matter how much you really screw up as long as you can get one of these god cards on the field, but there may very well be strategies here which you can win without the god cards. And it definitely seems like only two of the three potential semi god cards of this series are in this deck. The Obelisk, the Tormentor equivalent, seems not to be there. This is the kind of art that you would really call more wild and crazy, and I would still even though it's a unicorn, it really does not have that white, pure unicorn look that you would expect somebody targeting girls would draw. Right, well, send one face up spell to add a trap. Which is great. Of course, that means I need the other card, which I don't have. So it would have made more sense to have to slowly replace them all with spells so I could summon this guy. Now we're leaning on hoping that we can get lucky before we lose, which I don't think that's going to happen. All right, well, that's that for that. Over here, you can see this synopsis, and it's not even going to let you see the cards. You'll get a new icon or 200 crystals if you use your own deck to do that. Let's finish the story and get a reward of this secondary currency. These solo modes still aren't really giving you a great reason why you would do them. Occasionally you'll get some daily quests that tell you you need to do some solo mode gameplay, which is weird. But by far you still very much are in the case where you're much better off just playing ranked and doing daily quests and for ranked play. Plus, the festivals take a lot of time too. So if you were going to have any free time to do extra Yu-Gi-Oh, it's always taken up now by the festivals, which are happening at least once every month. As she gazed out the window, the mother continued her story. Rain is depicted by the weather painter Rain. She's a bit shy, but most diligent. It rains so that the trees and flowers around the world may be nourished. Depicting the snow is the weather painter Snow. She's bright, cheerful, hardworking maiden. The snow, this child makes blankets the villages and mountains wear white in winter. Now, it's actually kind of hard to make an argument that you need snow as a weather event. Like, almost certainly bears have evolved to need uh, winter and snow to hibernate, but when you think about penguins and polar bears and things like that, if there was never actual snow and it was just cold, they'd still probably be fine. Uh, I don't know if any character or any kind of life actually needs snow, since it is just cold rain. You definitely need rain, and you definitely need sun for photosynthesis, and even animals need the sunlight for vitamin D. Um, Depicting the clouds is the weather painter Cloud, a handsome young man. Uh, I don't know if you really need clouds either. If it rained and there were no clouds, you'd just be fine. Clouds provide shade, but you don't really need shade that much, or most life doesn't need shade from clouds specifically. You can find shade from other things. Sometimes he's in his own world, but with a magical marker, he can draw any clouds imaginable. You must have seen clouds that look exactly like other objects, right? And then the job of the weather painter's son is to draw sunshine. an old man with a fluffy beard. He kindly watches over the others. On laundry days, it's most helpful when he decides to draw sunshine. Lightning is etched by the weather painter Thunder, a boy who's a bit of a prankster. Again, I don't know if you really need Thunder, but I can almost believe an argument that Thunder and Lightning are actually needed to balance out just the electrical static in the atmosphere. And if thunder and lightning never really happened, then the air would just be supercharged with static electricity, and planes wouldn't be able to fly or birds wouldn't be able to fly. They'd just be getting shocked all the time, or uh, people and animals on the ground would be getting shocked all the time. Hmm. Lightning is etched by, yeah, we already read that. He sketches the lighting in order to surprise everyone, and sometimes his overly zealous artwork shocks even himself. The one who draws the sky curtain, Aurora, is the weather painter Aurora. Yeah, I don't think anything needs the Aurora as infrequently as it happens, and as it only happens in very specific places in the world. The Aurora she paints are of such beauty, I hope one day we can glimpse them together. The weather painter's rainbow depicts rainbows. Of course, all of these are just natural phenomena that just happen to work that way. If they worked a different way, nobody would question it. The ringleader, using 7 colors of paint, she builds a rainbow bridge in the sky. Not only are rainbows beautiful, but treasures lie at their feet, or so the story goes. They're kind of confusing fairies and leprechauns at that point. After hearing this story, the little girl was exhaled with satisfaction, if I can read that correctly, as if she's finally remembered to breathe. There's so many fairies in the sky. You know so much, Mother. But have you ever met one? The mother smiles gently, stroking her daughter's head, replies, Yes, when I was about your age. If you're a good girl, surely you'll meet your own fairy one day. Perhaps among the people you've encountered, there may be some that meet a fairy. So yeah, QT story doesn't doesn't tell you too much about the characters in these cards. I'm not sure if you need to do that though. And interestingly enough, that has found a new card pack. So is this a secret pack? Yes, it is. So now doing solo mode runs this extra risk. Man, that is flickering way too much. Uh, because these secret packs give you exactly 24 hours, now 23 hours being rounded down to buy them. And so inside these cards, you have a collection of cards you could buy or earn by opening packs. And because it's a secret pack, it is going to be 4 cards of the featured cards and 4 cards of what are just Master Duel cards, the main 6,000 cards available. So you probably wouldn't want to open more than 30 packs of this. Particularly if I'm going to go through the solo mode. You might only want to open 10 or 20. You definitely only want to open 10 packs. But this does create a weird situation now where if you are going to do the solo mode stuff, you need some jewels and extra. Otherwise, you're going to screw yourself at some point. Maybe not screw yourself over too much, though, because if you remember that like even one of these cards exists, or you have even one of these cards, and then you go and craft a card like this in this theme, it almost certainly would unlock the secret pack again for another 24 hours when you're ready. But yeah, this is going to be somewhat unfair. Um, and I would argue they are making too much effort now to animate different card packs uh, for secret packs that a lot of players may never see or very rarely see. It would make a lot more sense if there was if unlocking a secret pack was a permanent thing, and then there was like a storefront that just had 50, 60 different themed packs, booster packs that you could buy. So, 3 new cards from the Master Duel set, and 2 new cards from the um, featured set. Now, you want to buy always in packs of 10 because if you don't get a single ultra rare or super rare, then it will guarantee you that, although that guarantees a super, ultra rare anyways. Um, but it's not particularly a great system, and now I've unlocked another secret pack, and this is the biggest, scammiest part of Master Duel by far is the secret packs, unlocking other secret packs, unlocking other secret packs. Um, 4 new pickup cards. Uh, if you don't get a super rare or ultra rare, then you'll be guaranteed an ultra rare in the next 10 pack of cards. But if you had only 1,000 gems, then you have 24 hours to pay real world money to get another 1,000 gems, or figure out some way to earn 1,000 gems, which is practically impossible if there's not any daily quests left to do or anything like that. You can't just play ranked and get 1,000 gems in 24 hours. It's a delicate balance here as far as opening packs as to how you want that to go down, or how many cards you want to actually get before you start getting a lot of duplicates and redundancies, and you're paying more to get less effectively as the odds increase or decrease. The odds of getting a new cards decreases every time you already have collected most of the new cards. Uh, I will say that so far, the actual expansions that aren't secret packs have not been so amazing or so different that I've needed to buy 50 of a um are they called selection packs? I don't know. I'll show it in the menu in a second, in the shop menu, but that'll be 2 keys for the same thing, which does not give you 48 hours. So, yep. We've now gotten 2 secret keys that unlock 2 other things. At least 1 super rare guaranteed in every 10 pack. That's why you buy it in 10 packs. So you look at like this featured pack. We didn't get a single ultra rare. We got several super rares still to collect. And it's not particularly like we have all the normals in 3 copies. So it definitely does make more sense to open another 10 pack here. At some point, this probably will screw me over though, doing solo and using crystals for that. Because at some point they will. Um, and that was a super rare pack being upgraded to an ultra rare pack, which just guarantees that you'll get an ultra rare in the selection. Um, um, But yeah, at any point, Master Duel could come out with a expansion of the next collection of cards that are in Yu-Gi-Oh, and then the Master Duel collection will go from like 6,000 to maybe 7,000 cards, and those will be the newest of the new cards and the cards that people will really want to get and play, because those will be the cards that lead to changing the meta decks that are being played in ranked now. Whereas a selection pack or a secret pack right now, the ones that are already available, even if the secret packs are kind of hidden, is not going to change the meta gameplay. That Zodiac Tri Zodiac deck that I have is basically what people are playing, or a lot of people are playing, and until some new cards get added that counter those strategies, there's not any reason to really expect that to change. And that's the thing that kind of needs to change, because that'll be the point when we start to see some fresh life into ranked gameplay. They've not done that so far, and it has been at least 3 months, if not 4 or 5 months, since this game has come out, in which entire month-long ranks have happened, and nothing changes from month to month. Not that it needs to change every month, that would be a little too much. And remember, in the solo mode, we saw only about 200 gems, crystals that you could earn, whereas I've just spent 2,000. So it definitely is a losing proposition, as far as if you were just trying to save gems and never use them. Alright, now we've got a whole bunch of card packs open. Again, look at the featured cards. It's very possible we wouldn't get all of the ultra rares. It's a little weird to have two ultra rares missing, but you are noticing here that there's a lot of cards here that we have four of, a lot of cards here that we have at least one of. So it's a risky proposition to go for another 30, but I would say go for it. But that also pretty much guarantees that we're not going to open any of the secret packs. And remember, these first four are not the featured cards, so I'm not really paying attention to getting new copies of those. Not that those cards are inherently less valuable, they're just cards that have a chance that you'll get them at any point. And then they spin around and they become foil versions or fancier versions of the cards, and that's a system that they really should just get rid of for the digital version. It's ridiculous, and it's just attempting to give a false value to digital cards that really should be fairly valueless to begin with. It's scammy, certainly, price manipulation. Like, fortunately, we've seen quite fewer limited edition versions of video games released in the past year or so, but that is also in the middle of the whole COVID-19 pandemic and shortages, so uh, I wouldn't be surprised if everything ever got back to the way it used to be, that we start to see incredibly expensive collector's editions, limited editions of games that that have physical items in them or just ridiculous digital items that can only be collected through the collector's editions. Even though a lot of people push it back. And see, we can see at this point I'm getting less lucky. Not a single new card there. Honestly, I think last time I collected it though, these, as far as just the generic Master Duel cards, I probably have somewhere around 5 to 10% of the generic Master Duel cards. So I should still be seeing quite a lot of new cards there. I suppose it is also worth pointing out that I really have only bought one tin pack out of buying. Oh, I'd say I've probably bought 100 tin packs, 50 tin packs. Now, I probably bought somewhere around 25 tin packs if I was to really think about it. And I've only seen one tin pack of cards not give me a super rare or ultra rare. But they did it very much at the worst possible second when I did not have extra crystals to spare. Yeah. There's a overall lifetime quest to have discovered 100 secret packs. I assume it's 100 different secret packs. Uh, and I almost wonder if at that point the secret packs might just unlock permanently instead of being the 24-hour limit. At a certain point, it would make sense to have a more seasoned player uh, be able to buy whatever cards whenever they want to because they've already put in the currency. We can see we didn't get 2 of the ultra rares and 1 of the super rares, but we've gotten everything else. And while we don't have 3 of everything else, we also have a lot of extras of other things. And at that point, the odds of getting something new are so low, it really does not make sense to go any further. Um, but yeah, cards in this pack are the one would be the left 4, and there's nearly 7,000 of those. When you scroll down here, you can see it's getting somewhere close to maybe even up to 20% of all the cards have been collected. But there's still plenty of opportunity to find new cards in that. Whereas something like Refined Blade, um, the number of cards available in these selection packs are much smaller, and you're getting 8 cards from this selection. And then at that point, it becomes kind of hard to justify buying more of these packs when you have 90% of it. But then you also run into a problem where you don't really have a lot to do otherwise. And then the legacy bonus packs are the 2 packs, but they have a smaller collection of cards. So these are kind of the important cards that they think exist in the game, the ones that you actually would play with, which it definitely shows some weirdness that of the 7,000 cards available, only 4,000 of them really see any play, or they're indicating that they only see any play. And then, of course, you got this problem now where you have a secret pack here. It would make some sense to open this secret pack, but I don't think I can. I just don't have enough gems. It would make slightly more sense to open that pack. Yeah, a best case scenario, what you would have is of this 10 or 20 packs, you would have one that you barely have any cards, or you only have one card of you're going to have at least one card. and open a tin pack from that, and that's about it. That deck is actually a bad one. I already have too many cards from that deck. This deck would be a very good one to go for, certainly. So, rapid aircraft advancement. Of course, if I open a tin pack of rapid aircraft advancement, almost certainly it finds more secret packs. This one would be a good one to go for too. This one's not a terrible one to go for, but we have better. Let's see, did we just look at that one? I think we did. This one's not a terrible one. And there's no real guarantee that there's a lot of overlap in these secret packs. So if I was to go for, say, this secret pack and then get almost all these cards, that doesn't mean it's really going to get all the other cards that are available in these other secret packs. These are definitely different secret packs that are definitely offering different kinds of cards. I think we had done this one. Nope. Yeah, if I just had an infinite amount of premium currency, it would make a lot of sense to open 10, 20, maybe even 30 packs of these. But I think I'd want to be fairly careful. It definitely doesn't make sense to open any more of these when you see the other options. And then that's another one that would be considered. And then I think I probably have collected a lot of these. Nope, oddly, haven't collected as many of these as I thought I would. So let's see if this number jumps up. It does. They've changed the whole way this system works. So I have now found 100 secret packs lifetime wise, and that gave me 50 gems. And if I was just going to desperately collect all rewards, 5 gems here is nothing. A couple logins, daily logins, which I installed an app on my cell phone to launch Master Duel every day at the same time, just to do the daily logins and make sure I don't miss any of that or try. And then finishing a daily quest of 3 duel modes gives me 40. Was most of the daily quests do not involve solo mode. That hardly gets me back up to the 8,000 I was at. So yeah, it creates a bit of a quagmire where in the next recording I'll try and cover this, and there's definitely a chance that doing this and this unlocks 2 secret decks, and I'll struggle to have enough gems to get all of that done. I can certainly spend extra time doing the solo deck challenges or coming back and trying to finish these more, but the rewards from those are going to be fairly rough. My main focus, of course, will be to try and get the duel training forward to the next thing, so we'll start from that. But yeah, undoubtedly, more and more when I am doing these uh, solo quest videos, I'm showing less content than I would like to, as I'm just hitting these difficulty spikes, and it becomes close to impossible to succeed in a reasonable amount of time. Alright, well, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to further follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.